So we want to get that nice and clean. I sprinkled some water on my laptop, sorry. I think we ended up in 2 recordings now for this. So we're going to make sure that the sink is nice and clean. Okay. Nice and clean and dry and germ free. Put that over there. So we're going to take our pork shoulder. I'm hoping you guys can see this well. And we're going to open the package. And there is going to be some blood in this, so that's why I like cleaning it too. I'm going to slip our pork shoulder buddy out of here. And this goes immediately into the trash. You can rinse it out and put it in the trash, or just put it right into the trash. Okay. So here's our pork shoulder. And what I do is I rinse it out with cold water first. Now, if you notice, you've got a little bit of spot there where there was a vein, a major vein from the pork. You might want to cut that out if you think it's gross. You can trim a little bit of the fat off of it. It does have some fat on it. If you want, fat helps keep the flavor, helps give you flavor. So I don't know how much of it you really want to cut out. Okay. I usually use fresh lemons, but I'm using this lemon juice thing. It's a little cheaper and it's still 100% lemon juice, and I don't have to go through the process of squeezing. So I'm just gonna, like, I don't know, we just kind of rinse it with it, you know. And then I have, this is distilled white vinegar, and I just pour that over it too. I use a lot of it just because that's just the way we do it. So while that's doing that, and I'm going to let it sit there for a couple of minutes. Hi. And I'm just going to let that sit there for a couple of minutes. Sorry, my thing's a little shaky here today. I'm just kind of trying to balance it a little bit. While that is marinating, I just kind of let it sit there for a little bit, okay? While that's doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to put together the seasoning mix that I use to season the pork before it goes into the fridge. So I like to use a mixture of adobo. It's an all-purpose seasoning. I usually put fresh ground garlic in it, but for time purposes, and because I'm being lazy today, I'm using just some granulated garlic. So we're going to put a little bit of that in there. Now, the amount of garlic that you put in is going to vary to the amount of garlic that you like. If you like garlic, put garlic in it. If you don't like garlic, don't put any garlic in it. It's your food. Play with it. And then I've got some pepper. So I like extra pepper in it just because it makes the pork taste good with that combination of garlic and pepper. So here we go. Just put a little bit in it. This is kind of like an eyeball recipe. I've done it long enough at home to know, you know, to know. There's clearly no, I mean, you could Google a recipe and it's going to tell you, oh, do this like this or do this like that. But every family is really different, honestly. And we all put different seasonings in it. Even though they're the same, they're in different amounts. So it's going to give you maybe a slightly different taste. My friend and I, we use the same ingredients, but we end up having different tastes, you know, like, so it tastes slightly different, although kind of the same. So I like adding to my adobo mixture, I like adding these little packages of sazon, and you can actually get this at the Dollar Tree here in town. I'll add like a package, like for each pork shoulder, I'll put one of these inside, just to give it a little extra, and it has a whole bunch of seasonings and, you know, coloring a little bit. So right now we have our salt seasoning mix ready. It is I'd say it's about a quarter cup adobo, the all-purpose seasoning, and about another 3 tablespoons of this stuff, of the garlic, granulated garlic, an extra tablespoon or 2 of pepper if you really like pepper. Also, I like adding a little bit of oregano, so we put about a tablespoon or 2 of the oregano, and this is for 1 pork shoulder. You might think, wow, that's like a lot of salt or whatever, or it really isn't, because what's going to happen is that when we season the pork shoulder, it's going to go and it's going to marinate, and it's going to kind of like permeate into the other areas, because we're not just going to like put it on top. We're going to cut some holes in it, and we're going to shove all this good stuff into it and make it nice and tasty. So some people will use something called mojo. There's a big bottle. If you go to the grocery store, you can find it. It's called mojo. It's spelled mojo, M-O-J-O, and it's from this brand as well. It's from the Goya brand. And it already gives you a whole bunch of seasoning. So sometimes people just put a little bit of salt and pepper, and then they dump that on it and they marinate it, which is, it's good. It has orange juice, and it has sour orange. It has sour orange and lemon and a whole bunch of nice citrus notes that really complement pork. Okay, so I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to get our pork shoulder. So I'm going to get our pan ready. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to rinse out the pork shoulder, rinse off the vinegar and the lemon juice, and then we're going to put it in here, and then we're going to stab it up, and then we're going to stuff it with stuff. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can turn you guys this way so maybe you can see me. Oh yeah, you can. So here we go, without getting the Chromebook wet, right? So there you go. So here we have our pork shoulder, and what you want to do is real quick, you want to rinse out your sink as well. Okay, so once that is done, we're ready to begin to do our cuts into our pork shoulder. Let's see. Now one thing I want to let you guys know, you're probably thinking, why does she only have one glove on? Well, because with this hand, I'm gonna be grabbing my pork. I want to keep this one dry, okay, and so that I can like use my spoon and. Now, trick is when you make these holes and you're gonna pour the seasoning into it, do not touch the spoon to your pork, to your raw pork shoulder, because then you're going to be sticking it in there again into the main bowl with the seasonings, and you don't want that. You don't want to contaminate it, because if you have seasonings, if you have some of this left over, which you probably will have seasonings left over, you can just put it in a little bottle, and then you can use it for other things. Like you can, you know, season your chicken for fried chicken with it, or your pork chops, or whatever. Or you can just use it as regular seasoning, as an all-purpose seasoning, because that's what it is. It's an all-purpose seasoning. The only thing is, I hype mine up more. Some people will directly just use the all-purpose seasoning and that's it. I like heightening mine. I like putting extra garlic powder in it. I like putting pepper in it and all that stuff, because you know it's my food. So if I'm gonna eat it, I'm gonna cook it the way I want it. So same thing with you. It's your food. Play with it, right? You're going to do all that. So we're going to take a nice paring knife, nice and sharp. Has a nice point to it, as you can tell. Has a nice point to it. And we're going to start cutting into this pork shoulder. So I'm going to try to put this down to an angle so that we can see the process here. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. There you go. Hopefully, yeah, don't worry, my sleeve did not touch the pork shoulder. Hopefully you can see it. Can you guys see it? Yeah, okay. So here we go. I'm gonna start stabbing my pork shoulder. Just nice, deep, and you can tell I'm already using my 2 fingers to put in and kind of like open the pockets. Make sure I see how deep it is. You can go all the way almost through to the skin layer. And if you find a little extra stuff that you don't want, feel free to take it off. You can take that off. It's not very appetizing. This fella here seems to have had the veins still attached here, which it's not gross. I mean, it just doesn't look pleasing to the eye, right? It doesn't look very appetizing. So why don't we just take this whole thing off? Call it a day. Okay, and there you go. Just put that there for now. Just kind of like, it really isn't very appetizing. This one has a piece of meat on it that I'm just gonna, I'll put it aside and do this later. I'm just gonna take the meat that's on it off of it. So, sometimes it has a little more fat than others. They're usually very clean. You usually don't have to do all this cleaning on it, but this one kind of, whoops. This one kind of like has a little extra, you know, fat and stuff to take off. So that's why I took it off. Feel free to take off whatever you don't want. So here we go. Okay, so we're gonna cut up. Now you gotta be very careful, because right about this area right here runs the bone of what is this pork shoulder, okay? So the bone runs here. So if you hit, you might not go as far, like right there. I just hit the bone, as you can hear. That's the bone there. So you're not gonna get as deep, but you can still make a nice cut. And just kind of try to, the bone's right in there. There's a bone right in there. Now when you get this, you can usually get it fresh. So you can just come home and season it up. There you go. If you freeze it, make sure you thaw it. If it's frozen when you purchased it, or you brought it home and put it in your freezer, make sure that you thaw it in the refrigerator for a day or two. Might take a while. This one's still frozen down deep in here. I can still feel the frozen meat, which is another reason why you would season it, right? Like heavily, because when that meat thaws and the liquid, the water or whatever starts draining out, you're gonna have liquid in the pan, and you want to make sure you just get it all. Okay. I'm just gonna cut this all over. Nice deep. You want to make nice deep pockets. So this one's a nice deep pocket. This one runs parallel. This hole right here that I'm making is going to run parallel with your layer of skin and fat. You want to keep this because this gets nice and crunchy in the oven. We're going to bake this. This goes into the oven.